why are we in a spiritual conflict rather than a culture war?
Because those who oppose the traditional values and those who oppose custom and convention, which have always been the guiding lights for real culture, by which I mean they've always helped us to advance to the future with a spotlight to the past, or shining a spotlight to the past as our guide. Those who oppose this don't offer a rival culture. They offer destruction, devastation. Their intent has always been, as revolutionaries from time immemorial have wanted, to tear down the culture and to replace it with some abomination. In this case, I mean, even those who first initiated or inaugurated this style of devastation, let's say the French revolutionaries, they were very cultured people. Their aim was not to, obviously, was not to have a revolution that ended in terror, although most do. Their aim was to, establish another form of life, and for good or for real, but it certainly wasn't to destroy everything that had gone before, although they made a good fist of doing that with many of the institutions, most notably the church. But in this day and age, what we've got are people who repudiate entirely their heritage, repudiate entirely the fact that they might actually be made by something other than themselves, and want to recast identity from the most basic biological level as something that is up for grabs. Now that seems to me that is not a culture. There's that's not built on any sacred text. It's not built on a legacy or a heritage. That's built on some sort of demonic cry for destroying the fabric of a civilization which is founded within or on religious values, and recasting it as something barren and empty, something that's given over to death rather than over to life.
You talked about a repudiation of heritage. I suppose one thing which Roger Scruton made very popular within public philosophy was the politics of home. And the argument he advanced repeatedly was that we've are ruled by a political class and more informally by a cultural elite who, as you said, repudiate heritage. They're actually driven not by a sense of home, but usually for more abstract ideals of justice that are global in scale and are usually backed by some kind of social engineering programs that are in line with their ideological proclivities, and often they worked counter to the interests of where it was they were supposed to be governing or where it was that they were from. And he called these people oikophobic, an ancient Greek term, which to say, the fear of home or kind of hatred of home. You're an Irishman and you're in Ireland right now. How would you say the state of politics is in Ireland? Are your politicians oikophobic? And if so, why, if that's not too much of a leading question?
Yeah, it's very complex in Ireland. I mean, it's much easier to talk about it in terms of Great Britain and so on. But to give it my best shot, and complex because of our difficult, history. Yes, I've, in my columns in the European Conservative, I have labeled my own country the woke capital of Europe, because our politicians, such as they are, have embraced every woke cause that's going. And not only that, but they've tried to be ahead of the bandwagon with each one of them, So anything that you see on the horizon with, a banner that reads woke, you can be sure that the Irish are holding the banner. And it is destroyed the cultural and social fabric of the country in the short term since around 2014, 2015. And yet the ordinary people still have a sense of belonging, a sense of home, as all ordinary people do, deep in their hearts. We don't think globally. We are not global entities. We are local entities. We attach ourselves to places, to common places that we can nurture and cherish, and which provide the basis of our memories and our cohabitation. And that's that in broadly speaking, that is what a home is. But we are driven by that. We have an instinctual need for that. Nobody identifies themselves as a global citizen. I mean, you can say that in when you're in front of a group of woke students and get cheered on. But when you go home, you still go home to your family, and you still talk about your neighbors and your community and so on. And those are the things that will draw on your resources for immediate attention and affection. So in this country, we've seen recently a backlash against an attempt, for one minor example, but it is significant nonetheless. There was an attempt by the government to remove mothers or motherhood from the Constitution, a referendum. And it was resoundingly defeated by the people. It led to the resignation of then Prime Minister Leo Varadkar. And it was proof positive, as if we needed any, that in the undergrowth, the people who don't have a voice on the woke loudspeaker, they are saying enough is enough. This is our home. We have lived this way. We have for our history. We have children to bring up in this world, and we don't want them being brought up like that. So, or with that value systems, if you can call it that. So, like all countries in the West now, there is a tension between, as you call them, the elites, who desire this kind of utopia where we all abandon our sense of home for love of the world or love of the cosmos or love of whatever it is or love of creation, and those of us who still cherish homely things, and especially at this time of year when people return to their homes, their physical homes, from the social sphere, and they try to recreate at Christmas time and at Thanksgiving in the States that sense of belonging that is so inherent in the human condition. So that's the battle, and those are the battle lines, and it is a spiritual battle because home is a spiritual entity. It's what Benedict XVI used to call the homeland of the heart. And it's when no matter where you are, you still have that sense of home. Even if you're not particularly attached to a place, you want to belong to a people, to a time, and to a place.